Hello, this video is the second and final part of my discussion of social statuses and roles. Here I will deal with the concepts of role conflict and role strain, as well as dealing briefly with role expectations, consequences, and stereotypes. Role conflicts. Not everyone is happy in the statuses they occupy and the roles they're expected to fulfill. Two common sources of difficulty are what sociologists refer to as role conflict and role strain. So we'll start off by talking about role conflict. Holding multiple statuses simultaneously, a status set, may be stressful if the roles attached to different statuses pull the individual in different directions. This is role conflict, sometimes called inter-role conflict, as in the common situation in modern societies, in which a young woman is both a mother and trying to hold down a job or pursue a college degree, and is then exhausted by the conflicting demands on her time and energies. How could she meet both her child's needs and those of being a student or employee? Having to care for a sick child may not be accepted as an adequate reason for coming to work late or being unable to hand in an essay on time. It is surely not coincidental that many successful career women remain childless. Or again, a hypothetical policeman with a criminal relative may have to deal with the conflicting expectations of his family and occupational roles. Role conflict can also be generated by the expectations of others, as in a case of an American student who paid for her expensive college tuition by working as an actress in pornographic movies. Heavily criticized by some for pursuing a career which they felt to be incompatible with attending a prestigious college, the woman in question, supported by her college, maintained that what she did in her private time had no bearing on her student status. In this instance, she was compartmentalizing her two statuses, a tactic for avoiding role conflict followed by many workers in separating their domestic lives from those they lead at the office. Then there is also role strain, in which the roles attached to a particular status are incompatible with each other. Thus, in recent decades, college professors have been expected to increase their output of research publications in order to achieve tenure or promotion, even though they're still expected to be effective teachers who mentor their students and are well prepared for their classes, in some cases requiring them to carefully determine their priorities and perhaps becoming less effective as teachers. Or again, nurses and many other healthcare professionals have found that the increasing amount of routine form filling they have to do interferes with the time available for patient care, or even to attend to such personal needs as going to the toilet. Both of these cases also illustrate a particular kind of role strain induced by a conflict between the worker's sense of duty and the practical exigencies of their work. Thus, when nurses, teachers, and other members of the caring professions consider themselves to be overworked and underpaid, it may be harder for them to take industrial action in protest against their plight, because in so doing they feel that they're going against their own professional ethics. Indeed, many members of the general public may share the same expectations as to their professional obligations, reinforcing the worker's own misgivings. Let me now turn to expectations, consequences, and stereotypes. Ascribed statuses often illustrate the importance of social expectations. Thus, in probably most societies, being female leads to a distinctive pattern of childhood socialization, with young girls and boys often being expected to behave in different ways, being given different toys to play with, and allowed different degrees of freedom. Whilst in adult life, many careers are only easily accessible to men, and even when women do well in them, they may well encounter a glass ceiling which prevents further promotion. Again, in the Indian caste system, birth into a particular caste leads to an almost all-encompassing set of social expectations and consequences, which prescribe the individual's socialization, religious behavior, occupational options, and interactions with others. Similarly, belonging to a rich and powerful family is likely to lead to a distinctive pattern of socialization, with deferential treatment by servants, and often a growing sense of entitlement, in addition to ready access to expensive toys and holidays. In some countries, such entitlement may even enable teenagers to escape arrest or punishment for certain crimes, as police are willing to condone their behavior because of who their families are. Even without strings being pulled, such children are also more likely to gain access to elite careers. Religious and cultural differences can also profoundly impact the experiences and socialization of children growing up, and in societies in which racial and ethnic labels are important, children often encounter very different worlds of experience and opportunity in terms of such things as treatment by the police and access to certain careers. In the modern world, many traditional role expectations linked to ascribed statuses are no longer accepted without question, as perhaps they once were. This is particularly obvious in the widespread global movement to challenge the subordination of women, a reality once common throughout much of the world. Similarly, LGBT activists in some countries have gone even further and challenged the traditional gender statuses themselves. Another widespread challenge to traditional role expectations of subordination has come from those promoting minority rights, with the American civil rights movement being particularly well known. Of note, those who wish to preserve traditional role expectations have frequently resorted to violence, including, in some cases, murder and attempted murder, as with the Pakistani schoolgirl Malala Yousafzai, shot in 2012 for insisting on the need for girls' education, or attacks on various low-caste Hindus in India for challenging their social subordination. There are also instances in which government decrees have suddenly outlawed or marginalized those holding a particular status. Prominent examples include the creation of class enemies in several communist states, including the campaigns against so-called rich peasants in both the Soviet Union and early communist China. Again, in Nazi Germany, Germans of Jewish ancestry suddenly found themselves identified as non-Aryans and denied civil and employment rights on that basis. In this case, many of those labeled as Jews had long since abandoned any strong sense of Jewish identity, but the attributed racial identity became their ascribed master status. It no longer mattered whether one was a university professor or a shopkeeper, a situation similar to that which many black Americans describe as their contemporary social reality. Finally, let me note that ascription plays a major role in the generation and perpetuation of social stereotypes, which are common throughout much of the world and are used to categorize people of different nationalities, religions, ethnicities, castes, social classes, genders, and sexual orientations. Such stereotypes do much to fuel prejudice and discrimination against those who are thus othered. It is possible that in an age of both globalization and widespread access to mass media, such stereotypes have become more common as more people are likely to encounter people from other parts of the world, whilst at the same time the mass media in many countries portray social categories in stereotypical terms. We should remember that such stereotypes are based on ascribed social categories and statuses, and are neither universal, unchanging, nor unchallenged. Thank you for listening. If you like these videos, you're welcome to subscribe to my channel. I'll try to answer any questions you may have in a future video. By the way, those who want to support the development of the channel can do so through Patreon or PayPal. I'll give details below the video. You can also click like so that I can get an idea of which videos are of greatest interest to viewers. Next week we will begin a series of videos on the sociology of culture. Thank you. Have a good day.